The prison has no walls you can see. That is what makes it perfect. A cage with visible bars can at least be identified, resisted, named. But the prison you are living in right now has no bars, no locks, no obvious boundary between captivity and freedom. It has something far more effective than walls. It has you. Convinced that the cage is simply who you are. Your personality is not your identity. It is your sentence. Every trait you carry, the emotional distance you call strength, the control you call discipline, the self-sufficiency you call independence, was not chosen. It was assigned. Assigned by the specific conditions of your upbringing, by the wounds that required management, by the social environment that rewarded certain versions of you and punished others. You did not build your personality. Your personality was built for you. And then you were placed inside it and told it was home. Carl Jung spent his life studying the mechanism of this trap. He called it the persona, the constructed social face that allows a man to function in the world without being destroyed by it. The persona is not a fraud. In its original form, it is a tool, a necessary adaptation to the demands of social existence. A young man learns which parts of himself are acceptable and which must be suppressed. He learns to present the acceptable parts with increasing skill. He learns to suppress the unacceptable parts with increasing efficiency. And gradually, so gradually that no single moment marks the transition, the tool becomes the totality. The mask becomes the face. The prison becomes the home. And the man inside it stops noticing the walls. The most sophisticated aspect of this trap is its internal consistency. The prison does not feel like a prison because everything inside it makes sense. The man built from emotional distance will find evidence everywhere that emotional distance is wisdom. The man built from control will find evidence everywhere that control is strength. The framework self-validates. Every experience is filtered through the construction and interpreted in a way that confirms it. This is not delusion. It is the natural operation of a psyche that has organized itself around a wound and cannot afford to examine the wound directly. To examine the wound would threaten the entire structure. Nietzsche understood what happens to the man who never examines the structure. He becomes what Nietzsche called the last man. The man who has traded genuine selfhood for comfort and security, who has smoothed every rough edge, suppressed every threatening impulse, and arrived at a life that is stable, manageable, and completely hollow. The last man does not suffer dramatically. He simply diminishes, slowly, without ever identifying the moment the diminishment began. He mistakes the absence of acute pain for the presence of genuine living. He has optimized the prison. He has made it comfortable, and he will die inside it without ever understanding that the comfort was the trap. You have been optimizing your prison. Every time you reinforced the emotional distance, every time you tightened the control, every time you performed the self-sufficiency with more conviction than you actually felt, you were not expressing yourself. You were renovating the cage, adding comfort, reducing friction, making it easier to stay. The personality does not need to feel like a trap to function as one. It only needs to feel like you. The Stoics understood that genuine self-knowledge requires a particular kind of ruthlessness, not the ruthlessness of self-condemnation, but the ruthlessness of examination. Marcus Aurelius returned constantly in his private writing to the question of whether his actions were genuinely his own, or simply the performance of the role the world had assigned to him. He was examining the prison from the inside, pressing on the walls to find which ones were real and which were merely assumed. Most men never press on the walls. The walls press back with the full weight of identity, and they retreat immediately. The discomfort of questioning the construction feels indistinguishable from the threat of annihilation, because to a man who is the construction, examination is annihilation. This is the central terror, the reason most men will never look directly at the personality they inhabit, not because they are cowards in the ordinary sense, but because the constructed identity and the sense of self have become so thoroughly merged that to question one feels like destroying the other. The man built from control cannot examine control without feeling that he is dismantling himself. The man built from emotional distance cannot question that distance without feeling that he is exposing something that will not survive the exposure. He is right about one thing. Something will not survive, but it is not him. It is the construction he has been mistaking for himself. Schopenhauer saw the engine beneath all of this with characteristic precision. The will, that blind pre-rational force driving human behavior, does not want to be examined. Examination threatens the patterns that have kept it operational. The will generates elaborate justifications for maintaining the construction. It produces reasons, evidence, philosophical frameworks, entire self-narratives, all in service of the same fundamental objective: to keep the man inside the prison without his realizing he is there. You have been given reasons. You have accepted them. Consider the last time someone close to you challenged one of your most fundamental traits, not attacked it, challenged it, suggested gently that the emotional distance might be having a cost, that the control might be creating isolation, that the self-sufficiency might be a wall rather than a foundation. Consider your response, the speed and force of the defense, the certainty with which you dismissed the challenge, the sense, almost physical, of something being threatened that could not afford to be threatened. That defense was not you protecting yourself. That was the prison protecting itself, through you, using your voice, your logic, your certainty. The construction is extraordinarily good at this. It has had years of practice. Every time it has been questioned, it has produced a defense so convincing that even you believed it. And the walls got a little thicker, and the certainty got a little stronger, and the possibility of genuine examination got a little more remote. Machiavelli understood that the most effective control is the control that is never recognized as control. The prince who rules through fear is always vulnerable to rebellion. His subjects know they are subjects. But the prince who rules through belief, who convinces his subjects that their captivity is their freedom, that their chains are their choices, that prince is unassailable. Your personality operates on exactly this principle. It does not need to force you to stay. It has convinced you that staying is who you are. The prison does not need guards when the prisoner believes he is free. Look at the patterns that repeat in your life with a persistence that should alarm you. The relationships that follow the same trajectory, regardless of who is in them. The opportunities that approach a certain threshold and then, reliably, inexplicably, fail to materialize. The version of yourself that surfaces under pressure. The one that bypasses every intention and every commitment and operates from somewhere older and deeper and more automatic than conscious choice. That version is not a failure of will. That version is the prison operating as designed. It was built for specific conditions that no longer exist. But it does not know that. It was built for the environment of a child who needed these particular adaptations to survive. The child needed the emotional distance to manage pain that could not be processed. The child needed the control to manage an environment that could not be predicted. The child needed the self-sufficiency to manage a dependency that could not be safely expressed. Those were not weaknesses. They were solutions. Precise, intelligent, functional solutions to genuine threats. The threats are gone. The solutions remain, running automatically, in a context they were never designed for, producing outcomes the child never intended, and the man cannot explain. The personality outlived its purpose decades ago. It does not know this either. And so it continues, presenting itself as identity, defending itself as truth, filtering every experience through its requirements, shaping every relationship to its dimensions, recruiting your intelligence, your history, your capacity for self-narrative, all in service of its own perpetuation, not maliciously, not deliberately, simply because that is what constructions do. They maintain themselves. They resist examination. They produce the sensation of being you, so completely and so consistently that the actual you, the one that existed before the construction began, has no voice left to speak with. That voice has not disappeared. It surfaces in the moments the construction cannot suppress, in the inexplicable grief, in the disproportionate rage, in the persistent sense that something essential is absent from a life that appears, from the outside, to have everything it requires. Those are not symptoms of weakness. Those are the sounds of something real, pressing against a wall it cannot name, in a prison it cannot see. You built the prison. You maintain it daily. You will defend it if anyone gets close enough to question it, and you will call all of that your personality. The walls are not visible, but they are there, and you already know exactly where they are.